Alright, what's going on YouTube? What's up, Raider Nation? I'm Bubba the Raider. Just finished watching our first preseason game against the Detroit Lions. We won 16-10. Awesome that we win. Doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't go towards our record, but cool to see some things. So I made a video earlier today talking about the things I was going to look for. And I did look at a lot of those things. I'm going to talk a lot about what I saw today. I started taking notes and then got kind of wrapped up in a lot of things with my little brothers before I could finish taking notes. So I'm going to go off of my memory here. So we won 16-10. The first thing I wanted to look I listed was Markel Lee being back and forth with the starters all week. He did not start for us. I thought he played okay. He was still playing pretty late in the game. I realize that middle linebacker is like, granted it's week 1 of the preseason, but I've felt this way for a long time, and I continue to feel this way. We need to address our middle linebacker position in next year's draft early on. A guy I've been looking at lately out of Alabama, his name's Mac Wilson. I'm going to be watching him this year. He looks pretty good. Really good, actually, and really good in coverage. I feel like that's a hole. It's a pretty big hole. Derek Johnson played pretty well, but he was only out there for like a series. And Markel Lee played all right. Kyle Wilbur ended up coming in and spelling Markel Lee quite a bit, and I was not impressed with him at all. I felt like his reaction time was super slow, and he was late to the ball constantly. He was not good in coverage. And I know that he's like a third stringer, second stringer, whatever, but he's also playing against third stringers, second stringers, and 1 or 2 injuries, and he's thrust into a position where he's got to play, and tonight, I didn't have confidence in him to be able to stop much. So, I didn't think he played very well. All right, cornerbacks. It's really funny. I thought I was really pretty impressed with our cornerbacks, with a couple exceptions. I thought some of them played extremely well. I think all of them played really well. And I was sitting there thinking, like, man, Sharice Wright is a good corner in the league. And when he's still on the field in the last 3 minutes of week 1 of the preseason, like, we've brought some depth in. Was frustrating because I would say probably about halfway through the third quarter, I started really watching Nick Nelson, a rookie from Wisconsin, I think, or Nebraska. I don't remember which one it is. I think Wisconsin. Anyway, I remembered hearing all of this about how many PBUs or pass breakups he had in college, and he had no interceptions, if I remember right, like none. And everyone I heard talk about Nick Nelson brought this up, that he can't catch the ball, that he's not going to create turnovers, he's not going to do those things. And I'm just sitting there, remember thinking, with almost every defensive snap, I'm just sitting there thinking, I really want Nick Nelson to pick the ball off right now and just end that conversation right now. And I watched Nick Nelson drop 2 pretty easy picks. So, who knows? Maybe the guy can't catch the ball. That's why he plays defense. But he had a pretty good night. Very back and forth. Sometimes he was awesome, and sometimes he was not awesome. He had a pretty good showdown with I don't remember what that receiver's name is, number 1 for them. He looked pretty good too. So early impact rookies. I missed the headline that Arden Key wasn't playing tonight, so I'm like sitting there looking for him online. I couldn't find him. Colton Miller. I thought Colton Miller played all right. Thought he played pretty well. He had that holding penalty on that big Marshawn Lynch touchdown. That was not a holding penalty. First off, It's those refs were not great tonight. Actually, they were bad tonight. But it's it's week 1 of the preseason. I thought Colton Miller held his own pretty well. Maurice Hurst looked really good. But PJ Hall, man. PJ Hall had a freaking game. He looked incredible. He looked really good, really explosive, really fast off the line. First one off the line. Recorded a sack and a pass breakup, and he just looked really, really good. So it was good to see that. The running back depth battle was really interesting to look at too. Marshawn had the big run. Doug Martin, I don't even know if Doug Martin, did he touch the ball? I think he might have had one carry that went for like 3 or 4 yards, and that was it. Then they moved into DeAndre Washington and Jalen Richard. Both those guys looked good, man. They always do this. They both looked really good. At the end of the half, towards the end of the half, like that 2-minute drill, we just kept dinking and dunking to Jalen Richard. We were running trips to one side and then had a receiver on the other side and on the weak side in Jalen Richard. And Jalen Richard would just kind of slip on out there, and we would just give him the ball, and he was picking up so many good yards. It was like really good play calling, which was really encouraging to see, just in order to get us moved down the field and kick the field goal before the half. So I really liked that. And then Chris Warren, that's a big dude, and he runs hard. I liked him. I thought he looked pretty good. He, like I said in my video earlier this morning, he had a big hit at practice the other day against Gerard Davis, and he looked pretty good. He does run, in my opinion, with his pad level too high a lot, and if he could figure out, Raiders, let's go, baby. It was pretty exciting. But if he could figure out how to drop his pad level and really, really run hard, he could be something good. Very powerful. I thought James Butler looked like less impressive Jalen Richard. I think that's his name, James Butler. He was in there, number 40. Built like Jalen Richard, fast. He had a couple runs. I was not impressed with his decision making on the field. So I think if I don't know, man. I think we should keep all of them. Yeah, Nelson. I liked him, man. I really did. I thought he hung in there. He had some solid tackles too. He blew up a couple screens. I really liked that. So, and Jordy Nelson. Do you mean Jordy or do you mean Nick? Because Jordy had a pretty good catch there in the beginning too. And then the last thing I was looking for that I listed this morning was David Sharp. I think Nick Nelson. Yeah, he looked really good. I wish he would have brought in those balls, but I thought he looked pretty good. So David Sharp, he looked okay. Not really standing out like I wanted him to. I think he had a holding call, but he looked all right. Like, it's week 1 of the preseason. He didn't blow me away, but he didn't disgust me either. What did disgust me though, Denver Kirkland, man. They didn't really talk about it, at least on the broadcast I was watching. That guy had such piss poor effort tonight. It was insane. I'm watching him watch the running backs get tackled. I'm watching him watch the guys that he's supposed to be blocking, engaged in a block with, chasing down the running back, and he's just walking. I was always coached, and I coach ball. You play through the whistle. You at least make the effort, and I don't know if I saw that one time from him. And that's really disheartening. I know he was an undrafted player year before last out of Arkansas, but you have to give that effort, and especially when we've got such a revolving door at right tackle. We've got Donald Penn, who we're asking to take a pay cut. We've got a rookie in Colton Miller. Like, you've got to have that effort. You have to do it. So I was pretty pretty disgusted by then. Johnny Holton kind of surprised me. Yeah, Kirkland's going to be working at Costco this season. I think so. His name's fitting, Kirkland. Kirkland's best, not the Raiders' best, that's for sure. Yeah, I think he's gone too. So I noticed that Johnny Holton played a lot early on. So that, that shows me that maybe he's in some pretty good graces there. And I didn't expect him to be utilized so much early on, which was kind of interesting. I really was impressed with Eddie Pinheiro, our rookie kicker. He had a couple really good kicks. Every kick was like right down the middle, accuracy wise. And it can't be easy for a kicker to kick off that infield. So I was pretty impressed with him. I thought Johnny Townsend, he didn't really blow me away. But Marquette King was a really good punter, and maybe it's not fair for me to compare, but I felt like, what? Back to the Eddie Pinheiro, though, real quick. That last kick out of bounds was just like, no. So, he's a rookie, undrafted. Hopefully he can figure that out and move on and not do that again. You could tell that Gruden was pissed, and I really liked that. I really liked Gruden getting fired up. Read his lips a few times. Read his lips on the Colton Miller holding call, and yeah, he said it was bullshit. So can't argue with it, So that's really like my reaction to the stuff I saw. I thought Connor Cook looked really good. I think that working with Gruden is really going to be what he needs, and that's awesome because I feel like Connor Cook could have been or should have been a guy that this season we were able to trade for a pick, like a second or a second round pick, or even a first, like the Patriots did with Garoppolo or like the Bills did with McCarron. Like that's what I thought he was going to be. And he has not been that. And even when we've needed to lean on him in the playoffs, he wasn't good, but he looked pretty good tonight. And he played a lot, which was cool. And I thought EJ Manuel looked okay, minus that exchange. And, both of them had a couple throws that I was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you throwing that? Neither of them really seemed to, except for that end of the half, neither of them really wanted to check the ball down. And it worked out for Connor Cook, like on that touchdown play to Ryan Switzer, who I love. I love Ryan Switzer. That was incredible. But there were some plays that they just needed to dump it off and live to fight another down, and they were not doing that. They're forcing a lot. So, room for improvement. So next week, I'll have to read, what's going on in camp and what the practices and stuff. Next week we play the Rams on Saturday. I wouldn't expect to see a lot scheme-wise because we play the Rams week 1. I don't think we're going to tip our hat to what we're going to be running, and I don't think the Rams will either. But a couple things I'm going to watch. I want to see if Garyon Conley comes back. He dressed tonight, and he went out there and warmed up, which is, encouraging. I just think back to, I watched this first episode of Hard Knocks with the Browns, and Jarvis Landry standing up there and telling guys, like, the missing the practice, not practicing because you don't want to, coming up with an injury. And I'm not saying that's what happened with Garyon Conley, but it seems to be happening a lot, that you should be practicing unless he says, if your hamstring's not falling off the bone, if your leg's not broke, you should be practicing. And I love that, and I really wish that someone would push that sentiment off onto Garyon Conley and Obi Melifonwu, and like, practice, be there. The best ability is availability. So, like, you want to be a stud in this league, you want to play in the games, practice, show up. So I'm hoping that he can make it. Both of them can make it to the next game. I'm excited to see. I want to see Doug Martin run a little bit more and see what he looks like. I think he might be a guy who can really help spell us, or might be a guy who could get cut. And I think we need to see him run the ball a little bit more. And then Arden Key. I'm really going to look and see what Arden Key can do. I was really excited to watch him tonight, and I guess he twisted his ankle. I guess I missed that. So, oh, another guy that caught my eye was Paul Butler, that tight end. He had a couple really good catches and some decent blocks, and I have no idea who he is. So I thought that was he had a pretty good game. He had that one really good diving catch. It was a really good throw by Connor Cook, and that really caught my attention. So I think it was all in all, it was a pretty good game. Some mental errors. There was a ton of flags. Yeah, it does depend on his special team performances because he's not going to jump the depth chart over Lee and Carrier and Cook. So you're right. That's a good point. It does depend on his special teams, but maybe he's a guy who maybe we can throw him on our practice squad, or maybe we do hold him if we carry 4. I don't know. He just caught my eye, and I thought he had a pretty good game. So yeah, I would like to see a lot of these things next week, and I didn't really see. I don't know if I watched too much Brandon Parker. I don't know. Did anyone notice? Did he look good at all? Leave it in the comments. I didn't notice. Warren needs to stay and let Washington go. I think I kind of am there too. I feel like Warren has size that he can offer that Washington can't, and I think that they both bring something different to the table that Washington kind of falls into the same category as like a Doug Martin. So, it was a good game all around. I liked the schemes. I liked the play calls better than I normally would. There were some pretty conservative play calls. Times we ran it on 3rd down, but it's the preseason, and I really think Gruden was. I totally agree with you. He needs to. I said that earlier in my video. His pad level needs to come down quite a bit because he's a big target. I think they said he's like 6'2", 240 or something like that. Like he's a big dude, but he needs to bring it down. And you saw what happens when he does in training camp the other day against the Lions with Gerard Davis. So. I think he could be something pretty good, but we need to work with him, and he needs to 250. Yeah, that's insane. That's a big dude. Yeah, so, it was all in all, it was pretty good. A couple mental mistakes. Didn't like that we had to call that timeout. I thought it was pretty heads up by Markel Lee, but I didn't like having to call that timeout because we only had 10 guys on the field. To start the 2-minute drill before the half. Those are the kind of mistakes you can't make. But it was good on Lee for catching that and calling the timeout. So couple things I really liked, couple things that I think we need to improve on, but all in all, it was pretty encouraging, My player of the game, if I had to give one, it would definitely be PJ Hall. I thought he looked really good. Very exciting to see him. And then the person who I was least impressed with was Kyle Wilbur, for sure. I thought he just didn't do enough. He was too slow to react, and a lot of stuff was kind of going right by him. Yeah, I agree. Good to get the errors out of the way earlier, and then to see it in the season. I totally agree. I think they have a lot. I'd say Cook offense, Nelson earning a spot. Yeah. No, I definitely wouldn't disagree at all. But yeah, so those are the things I want to see going into this week. Us address a couple of those things and go into the Rams and get better. Like that's what this is for. That's what this time is for, is to get better and to see the things like you just said that we need to fix before the season rolls around. So, yeah, that's about all I had. I thought it was a pretty cool. It was awesome to see the Raiders again, man. I missed it so much, so it was really cool to see my team, see our team out there, see Derek Carr. I didn't think he was going to play at all. See Jordy Nelson and Amari Cooper, although Amari didn't do anything. even if it was just for a drive. It was interesting, actually. One thing I did notice, a guy who played way longer than I had expected was Bruce Irvin. Bruce Irvin was on the field still, I think, at times in the second quarter. And the Lions rookie running back Kerryon Johnson, that kid is good, and he played the whole game, which was very interesting because I think that's going to be their bell cow. I know they have LeGarrette, and I'm an Oregon guy, but you know, I think he's special, and I think that it was pretty interesting to see. Oh, and then on that note, I think he got or no, was it him? I don't remember. Might have been Amir Abdullah. Someone got welcomed by Carl Joseph. I love Carl Joseph. I love what he can do, and that was something else. He he got the penalty. I don't know about that penalty, but I know that Carl Joseph can hit with the best of them, and I love to see it. So, yeah. Anyway, let me know what you thought. Let me know if you agree with me. If you disagree with me, tell me why. Like the video if you like it. If you dislike it, tell me why. If you haven't subscribed, if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. And I'll keep making this content for you. Hopefully, we improve, and I got a lot to talk about next week. So, yeah, just win, baby.